All right, good morning, second grade students. Today for social studies, we are going to continue looking at using a map grid. So, as you probably remember, in our last social studies lesson, we started looking at map grids. So if you remember the map grid that we looked at that involved the zoo, today we are going to be now looking at a map grid that has to do with a state. So to start off our lesson today, we are going to be looking at a map of the state of Ohio. And so just a reminder again, just a little review is that there are some maps that we see that have those lines on them. And remember that those lines form those square boxes and they form that pattern that we call a grid. So let's go ahead and underline that. Just so we remember that these lines form a pattern called a grid. And so remember the definition of a grid is a pattern of lines, and these lines make squares. So let's also underline in the same color our vocabulary of grid. So again, it's that pattern of lines, and when we put those lines together, they make the squares. All right, so we just talked about the definition of a grid. And so let's move on now to looking at a specific example of using a map grid with a real map. So we are going to be looking at a state map of Ohio. So let's go ahead and change our color and underline that we are going to look at a state map of Ohio. So we're going to be looking at borders and also tracing outlines of the border of the state. And now the word border is also one of our vocabulary words. So let's underline, define a border, and then trace the outline border of the state. So let's go down to our vocabulary, and our first word is border. And it says a border shows where places begin and end. A border can be a line on a map between states or between countries. All right, so let's go back over to the right and look at our map here of Ohio. So remember, the border shows where places begin and where they end. So a border can be a line on a map between states or between countries. So we are talking about a specific state in the country of the United States. So for this map, we are going to be outlining the border of a state within a country. So let's use the same color, but let's make our line a little bit thicker here. So we can see it a little bit easier. And so we are going to go around the state border here. So we're going to go along where the Ohio River is. So this really thick line that we see here, this is the outline of the whole state of Ohio. All right, awesome. All right, so now we are going to be looking at some cities that we see within the state of Ohio. So again, let's change our color here. And it says that we are going to notice some cities such as Lake Erie. And then we are also going to be looking at Lake Erie and the Ohio River as well. So let's grab blue for that, and we're going to see Lake Erie is up here kind of north, and then again the Ohio River runs along kind of the eastern part of the state and down into the southern part and heading a little bit more west. All right, so let's go back and look at some of the cities that we have. And so let's look at our map key here. And so it shows that for city, we are going to look for a little black dot, and that's going to tell us the cities. All right, so one that I kind of went over with the green pen is Toledo, Ohio. We have Cleveland, Ohio. We have Akron, Ohio. We have Cambridge, Ohio. We have Portsmouth, Ohio. Cincinnati, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio. And the last one is Lima, Ohio. Now notice that I didn't circle Columbus. So if we go back to our map key, we're going to notice that the star is going to show us where the capital is. So let's circle that, and we're going to see that Columbus is the capital of the state of Ohio. So, looking at the map grid, if we wanted to tell somebody where Columbus, Ohio was on this map grid, remember we always say the letter first. So we're going to go over to the left, and we're going to see that it says C, and then we're going to go up, and we're going to notice that it says 2. So remember, when we say a place on a map grid, we always want to start with the letter, and then we want to say the number. So we wouldn't want to say that Columbus, Ohio is in grid box 2C. We want to say C2. That's the correct way that we want to say it. And so we're going to first notice that Columbus is located along the C row, and then we're going to find the number across the top, which is 2, and again it's going to be grid square C2. Alright, and then the last one that we're going to look at is we are going to try and find what box the city of Akron is in. And so before we had circled Akron, which we'll circle again here in purple. So we see where Akron is, and it's kind of right on the border actually of a couple boxes. And so we notice that if we go over, let's see here, let's grab this color. So again, we want to go to the left, and this time we're going to see that we are in B, and then we're going to go up, and again this one's kind of on the edge, but it's going to be in 3. So we're going to know that Akron is going to be B3. So if we wanted to tell someone where Akron was, we would say it is in B3. Alright, and to wrap up our lesson, we're going to look at the rest of our vocabulary words. So next up we have the word capital, and a capital is a city where the government of a state or country is found. And so in this case, Columbus is the capital of Ohio. And next we have city, and a city is a large or important town, and a dot on a map shows where a city is found. Alright, we have 2 more. So we have river. So a river is a large stream of water that flows across land. And last up is state. And so a state is a part of a country, and there are 50 states in the United States. So Ohio is one of the 50 total states that make up the whole United States as a country. All right, and that is where we're going to end today for our social studies lesson.